The wedding planner called me 21 days before my younger sister's wedding. She wasn't calling about flowers. She wasn't calling about the final menu. She was calling to warn me that my mother had sent security a photograph of my face. Underneath it were 3 words: "Do not admit." I had already paid $47,500 toward the wedding. My father had been accepting praise for that money as if it came from him. My sister had seen the guest list without my name on it and said nothing. Then the planner whispered the sentence my family never expected me to hear. "Your mother told security to keep you out of a building you own." For several seconds I couldn't speak. I was standing in the hallway of an abandoned elementary school on the west side of Cincinnati. A construction crew worked around me carrying drywall through classrooms that had been empty for nearly 2 decades. Sunlight cut through dusty windows, falling across faded handprints painted along one wall. In 8 months, the old school would become apartments, a daycare center, and a small neighborhood grocery store. Restoring places people had stopped valuing was what I did for a living. At that moment, it felt painfully appropriate. "Who sent you the photograph?" I asked. "Your mother emailed it this morning, and Abby approved this." The planner, Tessa, hesitated. "I was told the bride wanted a peaceful day." A peaceful day. I had never threatened to cause a scene. I had never demanded a special role. I had never asked to choose the dress, make a speech, sit at the head table, or control the guest list. I had spent 8 months quietly solving problems. When the venue required a larger deposit, I covered it. When Abby added 30 guests and the catering estimate increased, I negotiated a discount. When the photographer she wanted was unavailable, I called him personally and convinced him to rearrange another session. When Mom said the flower installation Abby had saved on Pinterest was impossible on their budget, I transferred another $12,000. I never asked Abby to thank me publicly. I never even told her the full amount because Mom said it would make her feel guilty. All I wanted was a chair, not beside the bride, not at the front, just somewhere inside the room where I could watch my little sister get married. Apparently, even that was too much. Tessa sent me the updated guest list. "I'm not sure I'm authorized to. I'm the owner's representative for Bellwether Hall." "I know that now." "Then send it." She exhaled. "I'm sorry, Natalie." The use of my first name almost broke me. Cruelty gave you something to fight. Kindness reminded you that you were hurt. Send the guest list, the security instruction, and the payment summary. "What are you going to do?" I looked at the faded handprints along the wall. Proof that someone had once occupied that space. Proof they had not been invisible. "I don't know yet." That was true. I ended the call. My operations manager, Marcus, stood several feet away holding a roll of blueprints. He had worked with me for almost 9 years and could usually read my expression before I understood it myself. "What happened?" "My mother sent my picture to security at Abby's wedding." He frowned.
"Why?"
"So they can keep me out." "The wedding at Bellwether." "Yes." "The Bellwether your company owns." "Yes." "The wedding you helped pay for." "Yes." Marcus slowly placed the blueprints on a folding table. "I'm trying to decide which part of that is the most insane. Does it matter? Does Abby know?" "I don't know." "Natalie." I said I don't know. My voice came out sharper than I intended. Marcus didn't react. He simply waited. I pressed my fingers against my forehead. "I'm sorry. You don't need to apologize to me." That was the problem. I apologized constantly to people who hadn't hurt me. Then I excused the people who had. "I need to go back to the office." "What should I do here?" "Keep the renovation moving." "And the wedding?" I looked down the hallway. "I'm going to find out exactly how much of it has my name underneath it." Second-story properties occupied a restored brewery in Cincinnati's Over-the-Rhine neighborhood. We didn't have marble elevators or a glass tower. Our offices had exposed brick wooden beams, mismatched coffee mugs, and a loading dock where employees ate lunch when the weather was warm. We bought neglected buildings throughout Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana, then turned them into places people could use again. Apartments above neighborhood markets, clinics inside abandoned factories, restaurants inside old firehouses, event spaces inside buildings that had once been scheduled for demolition. My father described all of this as Natalie fixing up old buildings. He had been saying some version of that for 15 years. Second Story now employed more than 100 people. But according to Dad, I was still playing with real estate. When I reached my office, my assistant Emma was standing beside my desk with several printed pages. "I thought paper might be safer than letting you throw your laptop through the window," she said. "Is that your professional recommendation?" "It's my recommendation as the person who would have to order a new window." I almost smiled. Then I saw the photograph. It was from Thanksgiving 2 years earlier. Mom had cropped everyone else out. My face remained in the center. Below it she had written, "Natalie Harper is not authorized to enter Bellwether Hall during the Cole Harper wedding. Contact Gary or Marlene Harper if she appears." My own mother had turned a family photograph into a security warning. Emma pulled out the chair across from me. "Sit down." "I'm fine. You're gripping the desk hard enough to damage it." I sat. The guest list contained 116 names. Aunts, uncles, cousins, Dad's former business partner, Mom's book club friends, a neighbor who once complained because my trash cans stayed outside too long. Even Dad's golf partner's adult son had a seat. My name was missing. The payment summary was worse. My $47,500 appeared under "Wedding gift arranged by Gary and Marlene Harper." The printed program included a thank you to my parents for making Abby's dream celebration possible. There was no mention of me, not as a contributor, not as family, not even on the list of people expected for photographs. I wasn't simply absent. I had been edited out. Emma sat across from me. They took credit for all of it. Yes. Did Abby see this? I don't know. That answer is getting harder to believe. I looked at her. She didn't soften it. Emma had been with me through the worst year of my divorce. She had watched me sleep on the office couch because returning to an empty house felt unbearable. She knew how often Abby had called during that year, not to ask whether I had eaten, not to ask whether I was sleeping. She called because her car needed repairs, because she wanted me to review her resume, because Mom had upset her, because she needed someone to drive to Columbus and help her move. I always went. Being needed had felt close enough to being loved. My phone rang. "Mom." Emma stood. "Do you want privacy?" "Number." I answered and placed the call on speaker. "Hi, sweetheart," Mom began brightly. "Tessa told me there was some confusion. There's a photograph of my face at the security desk." "Oh, that. As if she had accidentally ordered the wrong color napkins. "Why did you tell security not to let me into Abby's wedding?" Mom sighed. "We knew you were going to overreact. I hadn't reacted at all. I didn't know. You've been very emotional lately." "About what?" "Everything." "That isn't an answer. You know what I mean." "No, Mom." "Say it clearly." She sighed again. My mother believed sighing made her sound patient. Usually it meant she was about to say something cruel in a gentle voice. "Evan's family is traditional," she said. "They value stability." "What does that have to do with me?" "You're divorced." I stared at the photograph. "My divorce happened 3 years ago." "You still talk about it." "Only when people ask." "You also work constantly." "You can be intense." "Abby wants one day without tension." "What tension have I caused?" "You question people." "I ask why." "Exactly." Emma looked away, jaw tight. Mom continued, "Evan's parents are quiet people. They don't need to hear uncomfortable family history." I wasn't planning to give a speech about my marriage. "Don't be sarcastic." "I'm trying to understand why my divorce makes me too embarrassing to sit quietly at my sister's wedding." "This isn't about embarrassment. You sent security my picture. That was a precaution." "Against what?" Her voice cooled. "Against you deciding to make the day about your feelings." I looked at the payment summary. "Did Abby ask you to remove me?" "She wants peace." "That wasn't my question." "She has enough stress." "Let me speak to her." "She has a migraine." At 3 in the afternoon, "Natalie, stop interrogating me. I gave you $47,500. You gave your sister a gift. You listed it as Dad's gift. For simplicity, you put your names in the program. We are her parents, and I'm her sister. You are almost 40 years old. At some point, you have to stop needing recognition for every little thing you do. Every little thing. My little company. My little projects. My little contribution. My little place in the family." "Then why do you need recognition for money you didn't earn?" I asked. Mom went silent. I continued, "Why does Dad get praised for a gift he didn't give? We are presenting ourselves as a united family. Without me. You removed yourself a long time ago." The sentence entered slowly. "What does that mean? You chose work over family. You moved downtown. You stopped attending every Sunday dinner. You built your own life. I live 25 minutes away." "That isn't what I mean." I knew exactly what she meant. I had stopped asking permission. I had stopped letting Dad interrupt me. I had stopped laughing when Mom called my divorce the price of being too ambitious. I had become harder to control. To them, that meant I had left. "Were you planning to tell me before the wedding?" I asked. "We thought you would understand." "No. You thought I would discover it too late to do anything." "You're being dramatic. Can I still send the remaining $12,000? Mom was silent. Then she said, "The final catering payment is due Friday." Emma's eyes widened. I almost admired my mother's nerve. She had removed me from the wedding. used my divorce to embarrass me, sent my photograph to security, and she still expected another payment. No, I said. What do you mean, no? I'm not sending it. Natalie, don't punish Abby. I'm not paying to be treated like an intruder. This is why people find you difficult. For the first time in my life, I'm willing to let them. I ended the call. My hands were shaking. I stood too quickly, knocking my coffee onto the carpet. Damn it. Emma grabbed paper towels. I'll call maintenance. Number. I dropped to my knees and began wiping at the stain. I've got it. Natalie. I said I've got it. My voice cracked. Emma stopped. For several seconds, I scrubbed the carpet, even though the coffee had already soaked through. Then the tears came. I sat back against the desk, covering my face with both hands. I paid for almost half of her wedding. I know. I drove 3 hours in a snowstorm when she called me from college. I know. I slept on her couch for a week after her roommate died. I know. She couldn't even call me. Emma sat on the floor beside me. Number. She couldn't even ask whether it was true. Number. I cried for less than 2 minutes. Then I wiped my face, stood, and returned to my chair. The calm that followed wasn't numbness. It was decision. Every discount connected to the wedding had been approved because of my personal relationships. Bellwether Hall had reduced its rental price because I owned the building and treated the event as a family celebration. The florist was donating labor because Second Story had helped her open her first shop. The caterer had reduced his staffing fee after I asked him to help my sister. None of them owed my parents those favors. They had offered them to me. I called Marcus. I'm removing my sponsorship from the Harper wedding. He was silent for a second. Define removing. No broken agreements. No threats. No one loses a deposit unfairly. Every personal discount, donated hour, and waived fee ends today. Bellwether goes to public pricing. Yes. The florist. Abby can keep the design if she pays for the labor. The caterer. Standard staffing and service charges. The photographer. Tell him the truth and let him decide. Marcus exhaled. That will add a lot to the bill. I know. Your parents will say you canceled the wedding. I'm not canceling anything. No, he said. You're making them pay the price everyone else pays. At 5:12 that evening, the revised venue invoice reached my parents. Dad called at 5:14, then again at 5:16. At 5:20, Mom left a voicemail. At 5:23, Abby finally texted me. What did you do? Not, are you okay? Not, why did Mom send your photograph to security? Not, did you really pay for all this? What did you do? I stared at the message for nearly a minute. Then I replied. I stopped sponsoring a wedding I'm not allowed to attend. 3 dots appeared immediately. Mom says you threatened every vendor. I told them I was no longer asking for personal favors. Your reservations still exist at normal prices. That's basically canceling. We can't afford those prices. Then you couldn't afford this wedding. I could. That's why everyone offered the discounts. Her next response took longer. I thought Dad arranged them. Did you ever ask? Why would I? Mom was handling everything. I stared at the screen. Did you know I wasn't on the guest list? The 3 dots disappeared, then returned. Mom said you had work and didn't want to come. Did that sound like me? No answer. I typed again. Did it sound like me to miss your wedding without calling you? A minute passed. Then 2. Finally, you've missed family things before. I missed Dad's retirement barbecue because one of our apartment buildings flooded. You're always working, and you're always calling when the work produces something you need. Her reply came quickly. That's unfair. So is accepting $47,500 from someone you removed from your wedding. A long pause followed. Then, I didn't know it was that much. Mom said you helped with the photographer and a few bills. How much did you think Dad paid? Most of it. I closed my eyes. My father had spent months receiving praise for my money. My sister had never questioned it, because she had been raised to see me as the helper, never the source. Can you please restore the venue discount, she wrote. Just Bellwether. We can discuss everything else after the wedding. There it was. Not an apology. A negotiation. After the wedding. My feelings always had an appointment scheduled for later. After Mom calmed down. After Abby finished crying. After Dad's guests left. After the holiday. After the crisis. Later was where my pain went to die. No Abby. We discuss it now. She didn't respond. That night I wrote an Instagram post. I wrote that my sister had knowingly accepted money from someone she didn't intend to invite. I wrote that my parents had lied, stolen credit, and turned a family photograph into a security warning. I attached the payment summary. I attached the guest list. I attached the email from Mom. My finger hovered above the button marked post. For one angry second, I wanted everyone to see them the way I saw them. Then I imagined Abby's students finding it. I imagined Evan's coworkers. I imagined strangers turning our pain into entertainment. I deleted the draft, not because my family deserved protection, because I refused to become someone I didn't respect. The next morning, Abby made the decision for me. She posted a black and white photograph of her wedding shoes beside her engagement ring. Her caption read, "Some people offer help only so they can control you later. I'm learning that those who truly love you don't destroy your happiness when they don't get their way," Mom commented. "Your real family will always protect you." Hundreds of people reacted. Abby's co-workers called her strong. A cousin wrote, "Some sisters can't stand seeing you happy." Someone I had met once at Christmas wrote, "Jealousy is ugly." No one used my name. No one needed to. Emma found me at my desk before 7 that morning. "You've been here since when?" 6. "Have you eaten?" Number. She placed a breakfast sandwich in front of me. First eat. Then we decide whether to destroy the internet. I'm not responding. That is mature and extremely disappointing. I smiled despite myself. Then she sat across from me. "Your mother called reception." "What did she say?" "She said you're having an emotional episode." I stopped unwrapping the sandwich. "She said what?" "She told the receptionist not to let you make any major financial decisions until your father arrived." For 1 second, neither of us spoke. Then Emma laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was absurd. "She called your company," Emma said, "and tried to ground the CEO." The humiliation should have made me furious. Instead, something inside me became very still. For years, I had believed there was a perfect sentence I could say that would make my family understand. A perfect achievement. A perfect sacrifice. A perfect explanation. Something that would finally make them look at me and say, "We see you." But they had always seen me. They had simply chosen the version of me that was most useful. The difficult daughter. The divorced daughter. The daughter who worked too much. The daughter who didn't need praise but always provided money. Their story gave them permission to take from me without respecting me. I no longer needed to explain myself inside that story. I needed to leave it. By 10 o'clock, my parents had arrived at the office. I heard Dad before I saw him. I don't care what her assistant said. I'm her father. Emma appeared in my doorway. "I can call building security." Number. "Natalie. Let them in." Dad entered carrying the revised invoices. Mom followed wearing the bright, controlled smile she used when she wanted strangers to believe everything was fine. Abby came last. She looked tired but angry. Dad dropped the invoices on my desk. "Fix this." No greeting, no apology, no question about the photograph. Just an order. I looked at the papers. "Sit down." "I'm not sitting until you call these people." "Then you may be standing for a while." Mom stepped forward. "Sweetheart, no one wants a fight. You sent my picture to security." "That was a precaution. Against your daughter attending her sister's wedding." Dad waved one hand. "You made your point." "What point do you think I made?" "That you have connections." The answer said everything. Not that I had been hurt. Not that they had lied. Not that they had taken my money. Only that I had influence. Dad tapped the venue invoice. Bellwether added $18,000. That is their normal rental price. The caterer added thousands in staffing costs. Those are standard charges. The photographer withdrew. He made his own decision after learning what happened. "You poisoned him against us." I told him the truth. Which part was false? Mom turned to Abby. "This is what she does. She turns everything into an attack." I looked at my sister. "Did you approve the security photograph?" Abby looked down. Mom said they needed it. "Did you ask why?" "I was told you might come anyway." "Would that have been terrible?" She didn't answer. Mom answered for her. "This isn't about sitting in a chair for 3 hours. It's about how you make Abby feel." Abby looked up. "I never said that." Mom froze. The room shifted. Dad stepped in. "She may not have used those exact words, but everyone knows how you can be." "How can I be?" He stared at me. Cold. The word struck harder than I expected. I had driven Abby through a snowstorm when her car broke down. I had slept beside her after her college roommate died. I had paid for therapy when she couldn't afford it. I had taken Mom to every medical appointment during her cancer scare. I had helped Dad negotiate the sale of his business, while he told people his accountant handled everything. Cold was not what I was. "I want to show you something," I said. I pressed the remote on my desk. The screen on the wall lit up. A family group message appeared. Mom, Dad, Abby, Evan, everyone involved in the wedding except me. The first message was from Mom. Natalie transferred another $12,000. "That should cover the flower installation and the food deposit," Dad replied. "Good. Put everything through our card. so the Coles know we're hosting properly. Mom, should we tell Abby how much Natalie has given? Dad, no need. It will only complicate things. Abby, I thought Natalie was only helping with the photographer. Mom, she offered more. Let her. It makes her feel involved. No one moved. I advanced the screen. Mom, Tessa thinks it would be easier if Natalie doesn't attend. Abby, won't she be hurt? Mom, she is always hurt about something. You deserve one day that isn't centered around her emotions. Dad, she'll get over it. Natalie likes being useful. Another message appeared. Mom, Evan's relatives may ask about her divorce. I don't want anything uncomfortable. Dad, then don't invite her. We can still use the money. A gift is a gift. Finally, Mom, what if she finds out before the wedding? Dad, she won't do anything. She wants our approval too much. Dad's face lost color. Mom stared at the messages as if someone else had written them. Abby covered her mouth. I looked at my parents. Did you think I would never see this? Dad recovered first. Those are private family messages. That is your concern. You had no right to display them. They were forwarded to the wedding planner through my company system. Mom shook her head. This is cruel. Cruel was telling your daughter her divorce made her too embarrassing to attend a wedding she helped pay for. I never used the word embarrassing. You sent security her photograph, Abby said quietly. Mom turned toward her. We were protecting you. From Natalie sitting at a table, you don't understand the pressure we were under. From whom? Evan's family. The office door opened. Evan stood beside Emma. He had clearly arrived in a hurry. His tie was loose and his coat was folded over one arm. Abby stared at him. I texted him, she said. Evan walked into the room. My family never asked you to exclude Natalie. Mom's mouth opened. Evan, this is a private matter. You used my parents as the reason. We were trying to prevent uncomfortable questions. My mother asked me last week why Abby's only sister wasn't a bridesmaid. Mom looked toward Dad. Evan continued. My parents know Natalie is divorced. They don't care. My aunt is divorced. My brother is divorced. No one asked for a perfect family photograph. Dad's voice hardened. You don't know everything that has happened in this family. No, Evan said. But I know my parents were used as an excuse for something they never requested. Abby turned toward Mom. You lied to me. We simplified things. You lied. We knew how overwhelmed you were. No, you knew I was too distracted to ask questions. Abby started crying, not loudly. Tears slid down her face as she stared at the messages. I should have called you, she whispered. Yes, I said. She flinched. Mom reached for her, but Abby stepped away. I saw the guest list 2 weeks ago, Abby admitted. The room went silent. I felt the words physically. You saw it. She nodded. Mom said you had agreed not to come. I thought it was strange. But you didn't call. Number. Why? Her voice broke. Because I was afraid you would tell me there was a problem. There it was. Not innocence. Not confusion. Convenience. I wanted everything to stay easy, she continued. The venue was booked. The flowers were ordered. Every time something went wrong, Mom said she had handled it. I didn't want to know how. You wanted the wedding more than you wanted the truth. Yes, the honesty hurt, but at least it was real. Dad picked up the invoices. Fine, everyone has confessed. Now restore the discounts. I stared at him. Did you hear anything that was just said? I heard that mistakes were made. The wedding is still 3 weeks away. Mom's voice softened. What do you want, Natalie? It was the first useful question she had asked. I want to know whether my sister wants me at her wedding. Abby wiped her face. I do. Because you need the venue. Number. Because you need the discounts. Number. Because you need me to solve the mess. She hesitated. That hesitation mattered. Partly, she admitted. I'm scared. Then you still don't understand. I'm trying. No. You are still asking me to rescue you before you have faced any consequence. She looked down. Dad stepped closer to my desk. You can fix this with one phone call. I know. And you won't. Number. His face reddened. Don't confuse writing checks with being essential. The words landed in the room. Emma looked ready to throw him out. I remained still. Bellwether Hall is owned by Second Story Properties, I said. Dad's expression changed. What? The building belongs to my company. Mom blinked. We thought you knew the manager. I employ the manager. Abby stared at me. You own Bellwether. My company owns the property. Dad scoffed. You bought an old train station. That doesn't make you. Second Story employs more than 100 people and operates properties in 3 states. I didn't list every building. I didn't show them financial statements. I didn't need to. Beyond the glass walls, employees carried plans into conference rooms. Marcus stopped to answer a project manager's question. 2 department heads waited outside for my approval. My company was alive around my father while he searched for a way to call it small. Abby looked at Mom. "Did you know? We knew she was doing well." "No," I said. "You knew enough to use my relationships. You just didn't know enough to respect the work behind them." Dad pushed the invoices toward me again. "This is family. So was I before the bills changed." Mom began crying. Usually, that would have ended the conversation. I would have softened my voice. I would have comforted her. I would have accepted half an apology to restore peace. This time I didn't move. "I have a meeting in 10 minutes, I said. Dad stared at me. "You're throwing us out. I'm asking you to leave my office." "What happens to the wedding?" "That is Abby and Evan's decision." Abby looked at me. "Can we talk alone?" "Not today." The answer hurt her. It hurt me too. But forgiveness given during panic was usually just another form of rescue. "Go home," I said. "Decide what kind of wedding you can afford without using my name." The next morning, Abby asked to meet me at Riverlight Market. It was one of Second Story's earliest restoration projects, an old furniture warehouse near the Ohio River that now held a grocery cooperative, several restaurants, a clinic, and an upstairs event room. I arrived early. Abby was standing beneath the original wooden beams, watching people move through the market. A baker carried trays of bread. 2 nurses bought coffee. A young father pushed a stroller past a mural painted by local students. "I've driven past this place 100 times, she said. "You've been here twice. I thought you rented an office upstairs." "My company owns the building." She looked around. "I feel stupid." "You were misled." I also chose not to ask. That answer was better than an excuse. We went upstairs to the event room. It had brick walls, tall windows, simple wooden tables, and a view of the river. It was beautiful without trying to impress anyone. Abby sat near the window. "Evan is furious with my parents." "He should be." "He's angry with me too." "He should be." She nodded. "I deserved that." I waited. I deleted the Instagram post. "That doesn't erase it." "I know." She handed me her phone. She had written a new statement. "Yesterday I posted something unfair while I was scared and angry. My sister did not sabotage my wedding. She contributed more money and support than anyone else, and I failed to ask questions when she was excluded. I saw evidence that something was wrong and chose not to investigate because the truth might interfere with the wedding I wanted. I hurt someone who has always shown up for me. That responsibility belongs to me." I read it twice. "You wrote this. Evan helped me remove the parts where I blamed Mom for everything." That was smart. I wanted to blame her. She deserves blame. But she didn't make me ignore the guest list. I handed the phone back. "Post it." She did. Within minutes, replies began appearing. Some people apologized. Others deleted their earlier comments. A cousin sent me a direct message. "I'm sorry. I only heard one side." Mom called Abby immediately. Abby declined the call. Dad called next. She declined him too. "I've never done that before," she said. "It gets easier." She looked toward the river. "Evan and I talked all night. And he never wanted Bellwether." "Then why did you?" "Because Mom said his family would judge us if the wedding looked cheap." "Did Evan agree?" "No. I told him he didn't understand how people talk. And now I understand Mom was the one talking." I almost smiled. Abby continued. "We cut the guest list to 86 people. That's a start. We canceled the imported chairs. Good. We canceled the custom cocktail bar. Good. And the ice sculpture. I didn't know there was an ice sculpture. Mom ordered a swan with our initials inside it." I stared at her. "We are never discussing that again." A weak laugh escaped her. Then she became serious. "We still want to get married on the same date. There's a property called Cedar House in northern Kentucky. It used to be a neighborhood library." "How many people?" 90. "Is it available?" "Yes." Her eyes filled with hope. "What would it cost?" "About $36,000 with food staff, flowers, and photography." The hope faded. "We don't have that." "I know." She waited. I said nothing. "Would you transfer the Bellwether discount?" she asked. "Number." "What about just the venue?" "Number." "Natalie, we've already lost." "Stop." She did. "This is the same conversation as yesterday," I said. "You are apologizing with one hand and reaching for my resources with the other." Her face reddened. "I'm scared." "I know. I don't know how to fix this." "You start by accepting that fixing it may cost you something." She looked toward the river. "Evan and I have 10,000 saved. Then plan a wedding with 10,000 plus whatever remains from the money I already gave." "How much remains?" "Just under 14,000. You'll let us use that?" "Yes. It was intended as a gift to you." Her shoulders lowered slightly. But there are conditions, I said. She nodded. I attend because you genuinely want me there. I do. No one hides my contribution. Agreed. Mom and Dad do not control the guest list, the vendors, or the program. Agreed. They attend as your parents. They do not host the wedding or take credit for paying for it. Abby hesitated. That will destroy Mom. No. It will disappoint her. Those are not the same thing. She nodded. No more vague social media posts when you are angry with me. Agreed. And I am not your emergency service. What if something goes wrong? Something will. What if the cake falls? You find another cake. What if the flowers don't arrive? You buy grocery store flowers. What if Mom has a breakdown? You let her have one. Abby studied me. You're serious. I love you. That doesn't make me responsible for removing every consequence from your life. Tears entered her eyes. I don't know whether you'll ever trust me again. Neither do I. The answer hurt her, but it was honest. Trust what I do next, she said. I will. Over the next week, Abby did not ask me to make another phone call. She and Evan reduced the guest list. They replaced the plated dinner with family-style food. They canceled the videographer. Abby sold a designer handbag she had bought for the honeymoon and used the money for the photographer. Evan used part of his annual bonus. His parents offered to pay for the cake. For the first time, the wedding began to resemble the couple getting married instead of the performance Mom had designed. My parents did not respond well. Mom sent 13 messages accusing Abby of humiliating her. Dad called Evan and warned him that I was turning the girls against their family. Evan replied, "They are your daughters. They are also adults." Then he ended the call. 3 nights later, Aunt Diane hosted a family dinner. Abby asked me to attend because she wanted to correct the story in front of the same relatives who had heard it. The dining room was crowded. Mom sat near the head of the table, surrounded by cousins and family friends. Dad stood beside the fireplace holding bourbon. Conversation stopped when I entered. Aunt Diane hugged me. We're not taking sides. People usually said that after choosing one. I sat beside Abby and Evan. Dinner began with roast chicken, mashed potatoes, green beans, and 20 minutes of painful small talk. Everyone discussed weather and traffic while avoiding the wedding hanging above the table. Then Mom put down her fork. I think we should clear up some misinformation. Dad leaned back in his chair. Mom looked around the table. Gary and I have worked very hard to give Abby a beautiful wedding. Unfortunately, Natalie became upset about a misunderstanding and used her business relationships to create unnecessary chaos. Several relatives looked at me. The old instinct rose inside me. Defend yourself. Explain everything. Make them understand. Instead, I took a sip of water. Abby stood. That isn't what happened. Mom's smile froze. Sweetheart, you don't need to involve yourself. It's my wedding. We're trying to protect you. No. You're trying to protect the story you told everyone. The room became silent. Abby held her phone but didn't read from it. Natalie gave $47,500 toward my wedding. Aunt Diane's mouth opened. One cousin lowered her fork. Abby continued. Mom and Dad told me she had only helped with a few small things. They told vendors the money came from them. Then they removed Natalie from the guest list and sent her photograph to security. Aunt Diane turned toward Mom. You did what? It was a precaution. Against your daughter. There were concerns. What concerns? Mom looked toward Dad. Evan spoke. My family was used as the excuse. We never asked for Natalie to be excluded. Dad set down his glass. This is private. You called Uncle Ray, Abby said. You called your business friends. Mom posted online. You made it public. Dad looked at me. You've turned her against us. I haven't said a word since we arrived. Abby's voice trembled, but she continued. I believed them because it was easy. I saw Natalie's name missing from the list and didn't call her. Then I posted something cruel when the wedding became more expensive. She turned toward me. I'm sorry. The apology wasn't hidden inside an office. It was spoken in front of everyone who had judged me. I'm sorry I accepted your help without asking where it came from. I'm sorry I let Mom convince me your feelings were dangerous to my happiness. And I'm sorry I cared more about having a perfect wedding than whether my sister had a seat. Aunt Diane looked at Mom. Is this true? It's more complicated than that. How? Mom's eyes filled with angry tears. We knew Natalie could afford it. The sentence landed like a plate breaking on the floor. A cousin looked away. Aunt Diane stared at her. You let her pay because she could afford it, then refused to let her attend. She gave the money voluntarily. You told me Abby needed help, I said. You didn't tell me the price of helping was disappearing. Dad pointed toward me. She has always used money to feel important. Before I could respond, Abby did. Number. She stepped away from the table. Natalie never told me what she paid. She never demanded a speech. She never asked me to thank her. You don't understand your sister, Dad said. I understand her better than I understood you. Mom stood. After everything we have done for you, this is not about what you've done for me, Abby replied. It's about what you did to her. Mom began crying. Years earlier, that would have ended the conversation. Someone would have comforted her. Someone would have asked me to apologize for my tone. Aunt Diane quietly passed her a napkin. No one told me to take back the truth. Dad looked around this table and realized the room was no longer with him. You've won, Natalie, he said bitterly. This was never a competition. You wanted everyone to think we were terrible parents. I spent years helping you look like good ones. The room went completely still. Dad stared at me. The sentence left him with nowhere to go. I stood. I didn't cancel Abby's wedding. I stopped paying for a version of family where my money was welcome and my presence was shameful. I looked around the table. No one here has to choose a side. But no one gets to repeat the lie that I destroyed her wedding. Aunt Diane nodded. No one will. Mom picked up her purse. Come on, Gary. Abby remained standing beside me. For the first time, she did not follow our mother. That was the consequence Mom felt most deeply. Not the invoices, not public embarrassment. The daughter she had always controlled choosing to remain beside the one she had taught everyone to dismiss. Dad came to my office alone the following Monday. He didn't bring invoices. He didn't demand anything. He waited until Emma told me he had arrived. When he entered, he looked older. I drove past the school project, he said. Why? I wanted to see it. And there were a lot of people working. We're on a tight schedule. I spoke to one of the supervisors, Luis. He has been with us for 8 years. He said you covered his salary for 3 months when his wife was sick. That was private. He didn't describe it as charity. He said the company takes care of its people. We try. Dad looked at the photographs on my office wall, before and after pictures of our projects. A collapsed grocery store transformed into a clinic, an empty factory converted into apartments, a boarded-up theater filled with music. I thought you bought buildings, he said. I do. I didn't understand the rest. You never tried. Number. The answer was quiet. Honest. He sat across from me. When your company started growing, your mother told people you were doing well. I remember. I corrected her. I remember that too. I said the projects were risky. I said the numbers probably looked bigger than they were. Why? He rubbed his hands together. Because my company had stopped growing. There it was. Not confusion. Not concern. Pride. My daughter was building something bigger than I ever built, he continued. Instead of being proud, I felt replaced. I wasn't competing with you. I know. You knew then. He met my eyes. Yes, the admission hurt, but it was real. You taught me to work hard, I said. I did. You also taught me that no amount of success would make you respect me. His face tightened. I'm sorry. I had imagined hearing those words for years. In my imagination, they healed everything. In reality, they were only words waiting for behavior to prove them. I believe you regret what happened, I said. I don't know whether you've changed. That's fair. Are you going to the wedding? If Abby still wants me there, she does. Your mother may not come. That's her decision. He nodded. At the door, he paused. For what it's worth, you did good, Nat. The praise was late, awkward, insufficient. But for the first time, it didn't sound like permission. It sounded like recognition. Mom did not apologize immediately. For 9 days, she sent messages about how humiliated she felt. She said Abby had betrayed her. She said I had divided the family. She said Cedar House looked small and ordinary compared with Bellwether. I didn't respond. The wedding was 5 days away when she appeared at my house carrying an envelope. I let her inside. She placed a cashier's check on my coffee table. It covered the money she and Dad had claimed as their own. We're paying you back, she said. You don't need to return the part that genuinely went toward Abby's wedding. We do. Why? She looked down at the check. Because we took your gift and turned it into our performance. It was the closest thing to a real apology she had offered. I sat across from her. Why did you remove me? I told you. No. You gave me excuses about Evan's family and my divorce. Why did you really do it? For a long moment, she said nothing. Then, you don't need me. That isn't true. It feels true. Feeling unwanted did not give you permission to punish me. I know. You made Abby dependent on you because her dependence made you feel important. Mom's face tightened. And when I became independent, you taught everyone to call me cold. Her eyes filled. I was afraid you had built a life where I no longer mattered. So you tried to prove I didn't matter to the family. She closed her eyes. Yes. It wasn't a polished answer. It wasn't complete, but it was true. I pushed the check back toward her. Keep half. Put it towards Cedar House under your own names. The other half returns to me. Why? I did want to give Abby a wedding gift. I did not agree to finance my own erasure. Mom nodded. No more volunteering my money or help, I said. Agreed. No more telling people what I feel without asking me. Agreed. No more using my divorce to make me look unstable. Her face reddened. Agreed. You will attend the wedding as Abby's mother. You will not control the staff, the guest list, or the program. Her jaw tightened. For a second, I saw the old anger rise. Then she nodded. Agreed. And you do not get to call this reconciliation yet. She looked at me. What do I call it? A beginning. On the morning of the wedding, Cedar House glowed beneath a clear September sky. The old neighborhood library stood across from a small park filled with maple trees. We had preserved the arched windows, the reading room fireplace, and the wooden card catalog. White roses and greenery filled ceramic bowls on the tables. Warm lights crossed the courtyard. There was no ice swan, no imported furniture, no $100 place settings. The food was served family style. The wine came from a local store. The cake was made by Evan's aunt and leaned slightly to the left. It was more beautiful than the original wedding had ever been, not because it was expensive, because it finally looked like Abby and Evan. I arrived at 8 wearing jeans and carrying coffee for the staff. By 10, I had replaced a broken microphone cable, moved the cake away from direct sunlight, and found a new boutonniere after Evan's father accidentally crushed his. At 11, Abby's hairstylist found me in the hallway. The bride wants you upstairs. I entered the bridal room. Abby stood before the mirror wearing a simple ivory gown. Evan's sister and 2 of Abby's closest friends were with her. Mom stood near the window. On the table rested a folded dark green dress. Abby turned toward me. I know I don't have the right to ask. Ask what? Will you stand with me? As your maid of honor. As my sister. Her voice trembled. I don't want to replace what happened with a title. I just don't want to walk into the next part of my life while pretending you didn't help carry me through the first. I touched the dress. You chose this. Evan's sister helped. You guessed my size. Yes. You guessed wrong. Her face fell. I'm kidding. She stared at me for 1 second. Then she laughed and cried at the same time. Mom remained silent. She didn't explain Abby's feelings. She didn't turn the moment toward herself. She simply unzipped the garment bag and helped me change. When the ceremony began, Dad walked Abby down the aisle. Halfway toward the front, she stopped. The guests murmured softly. Then Abby turned and held out her hand to me. I hadn't known she planned it. For 1 second, I couldn't move. Then I stepped from the front row. Dad stood on one side of her. I stood on the other. Together we walked my sister the remaining distance to Evan. It wasn't about replacing our father. It was Abby's way of saying in front of everyone that I had helped carry her too. During the reception, Dad approached me near the fireplace. He didn't take the microphone. He didn't make a public performance out of his regret. He simply said, I spent years making your work sound small because admitting how much you had built made me feel small. That was my failure. Then he returned to his seat. The apology was brief, awkward, more believable because of it. After dinner, Abby stood with a glass in her hand. The room quieted. She looked at Evan before turning toward me. When I imagined my wedding, I thought perfection meant the right venue, the right flowers, the right photographs, and making sure nobody saw anything messy. A few guests smiled. I almost lost my sister trying to protect that picture. Her voice cracked. Natalie has shown up for me my entire life. And when it was my turn to show up for her, I chose convenience. No one moved. I saw a guest list without her name. I knew something felt wrong. I didn't ask because the answer might interfere with the wedding I wanted. She looked directly at me. I'm sorry. The room disappeared for a moment. There was only my sister, not the bride, not Mom's favorite daughter, the little girl who used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms. I can't undo what I did. Abby continued. But I can make sure no one here leaves believing the lie that Natalie tried to destroy this day. She raised her glass. My sister did not ruin my wedding. She saved me from beginning my marriage inside a lie. The guests lifted their glasses. Abby's eyes filled. She taught me that generosity without respect is not love, and an apology without consequences is only another request for rescue. I felt tears reach my eyes. To my sister, Abby said, "Who deserved a seat before anyone deserved her help?" The room applauded. I stood and embraced her, not because everything was healed, not because one speech erased what she had done. I held her because she had finally chosen truth when the truth cost her something. That was where trust could begin. 6 months later, our family still wasn't perfect. Dad visited the school project twice a month and asked Marcus so many questions that Marcus began giving him unofficial tours. Mom attended the opening of one of our neighborhood markets. While standing near the bakery, one of her friends referred to Second Story as Natalie's little renovation business. Mom corrected her. It's a regional development company. They create housing, workplaces, and permanent jobs. She didn't know I was standing behind the next display. That mattered more than praise delivered when she knew I was listening. Abby and I had dinner every other Wednesday. Sometimes we discussed the wedding. Usually we didn't. She stopped asking Mom to communicate difficult things for her. She stopped writing vague social media posts. When she was angry with me, she called. When I was hurt, I said so before the hurt hardened into distance. My parents still made mistakes. Mom occasionally volunteered my help, then caught herself and apologized. Dad sometimes referred to my properties as those buildings because he couldn't remember their names. The difference was that I no longer swallowed the disrespect, and they no longer punished me for pointing it out. At our first Sunday dinner after the wedding, Dad suggested a large family vacation to Florida. That sounds nice, Mom said. Natalie could rent one of those big beach houses. The table became quiet. Everyone waited for the old Natalie to smile and reach for her phone. Instead, I took another bite of dinner. I'd love to come, I said. Everyone pays for their own room. Mom opened her mouth, then stopped. Dad nodded. Fair enough. That small moment told me more about our future than any wedding speech. My family once treated me like an extra chair, useful when they needed support, removable when the picture looked cleaner without me. I couldn't force them to recognize my worth, but I could stop financing my own disrespect. Sometimes the most powerful revenge isn't destroying the people who hurt you. Sometimes it's stepping back and letting them discover what their version of family costs when you finally stop paying for it. So tell me honestly, if your family took your money, erased your name, and treated your presence like an embarrassment, would you still save the wedding, or would you let them face the consequences and walk away?